Hi, Rochelle.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Good. Thank you so much for talking to me. It's always such a pleasure to have you on the land with us. And you've done a couple of webinars with us, and um, just always a pleasure.
Thanks, Jesse. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I wanted to just ask you a couple of questions about your practice, your teaching, your sort of the where you're coming from and what your offerings are. So I thought I'd begin by asking, um, what's your background with Dharma? I know you have background with psychology
Mm, Yeah.
and yeah, what's your history and background?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think one thing I know, we go far, far back, which wasn't necessarily on the Dharma path, but was in other spiritual traditions. Um, I can recall being very little and knowing that there was a deep mystery in life. And there were different ways people were pointing to that sometimes I understood and sometimes I didn't, but that has been a theme, I think, through the most of the entirety of my life and into my adult life and where I found the Dharma. And I actually think the Dharma found me more than I was seeking it. And it found me in a psychological doorway. Actually, it wasn't that I was going out and looking for more spiritual traditions of understanding, but was in my studies. And all of a sudden, here was this thing that a few decades ago was like, you know, mindfulness. What are they talking about? Who's studying that? Not too many people, And and the moment, I won't forget it, the moment I was sitting in this very interesting little like continuing education class, and somebody put the definition out there and of mindfulness and led one little practice, it was like instant, like, oh, I know this. I've known this for a long time. And that started the path. And so I think a little less traditional. I came through it first through the psychological doorway, but then found my way out into the more um, traditional Dharma teachings and have continued to be studying in that way. And have studied in the Theravada Buddhism tradition and kind of paralleled studying that next to what I was understanding through the Western modalities of psychology. So that both of those are really coming together in my teachings, in the way that I'm able to understand and link the two coming together.
Great. Yeah, perfect. Speak more about that. How do those two come together?
Well, that's pretty much the embodiment of the teaching that I offer. So if people are spending time with me, they're I'm weaving, what we can know through the Dharma Door teachings and the traditions of what we know from the lineage of teachings, but also being able to map on, well, there might be this psychological understanding of the Western mind and the sense of the impact of unhealed trauma on the psyche and what's happening in this current iteration of time and space that maybe wasn't back when the original texts were being written. And so I feel like I can blend a bit of that knowledge, the depth of those teachings, but also this, oh, but understanding the psyche and how we might need to work with these practices in specific ways that really help nurture our practice, but simultaneously really supporting the psychological well being and the development of our practice at the same time.
Hmm,
Yeah.
that's great. And how do you feel like there's a way that integrates with nature practice, with
Mm.
practicing on the land at our center, or
Yeah. Thank you for highlighting that
mm,
piece.
mm,
But yeah, absolutely. I think one of the main reasons that I found it so helpful along my own path of practice and then offering these teachings and these practices to others was the container and the support of nature herself becomes a place of safety, ease, and ability to settle inside of our own psyches and bodies and nervous systems that actually is very facilitative of deepening our Dharma understanding and deepening our wellness and our psychological health. That's very different than when we might sit inside a room. And so we can ally with that and deepen not only our psychological well-being, but all of these beautiful truths we know inside the wisdom teachings. They become so much more accessible and alive, I think, in that depth of intimacy with nature to help us understand.
That's great. Yeah, I love that. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Mm. Mm. No, just grateful for anyone who's on this path and taking whatever steps move them towards bringing more wholesome, healthy, and vibrant ways of living, and that's needed for our lives personally, but for this earth. So just wanting to express gratitude for that.
Perfect. Thank you.